Although 911 has verified that Eddie is traveling to Texas, I had doubts regarding Buck's feelings after watching the conclusion of Season 8, Episode 9. Since 911 Season 2, Ryan Guzman and Oliver Stark have played Eddie and Buck, and their tight friendship frequently feels like the closest personal bond either character has. Unfortunately, after the conclusion of 911 Season 7, Eddie's relationship with his son Christopher, Gavin McHugh, is considerably more strained. The only person responsible for Eddie's 911 departure is himself, as the father now intends to go to Texas in order to reunite with his son. Even if the 118 responds to many severe emergencies in 911, internal disputes can have a long-lasting effect on the lengthy process. Buck will soon have to face his feelings about Eddie leaving, just as Eddie is struggling with his son residing in Texas. Even though Buck makes an effort to persuade Eddie, the viewers, and even himself that he is pleased that Eddie has moved to Texas, his logic exposes the unpleasant reality of Eddie's leaving, which 911 Season 9 may examine. Eddie's home isn't Texas, but there's no place like home. The story of 911 Season 8 revolves around the difficult relationship between Eddie and Christopher from the pilot, but nothing happens until the mid-season finale, when Eddie tells Buck that he's considering moving to Texas. As the story revolves around Eddie's quest to find a tenant for his house, 911 Season 8, Episode 9 transforms that potential into a certainty. In this episode, Buck lashes out by adopting a stray puppy, but the dog is taken away by his real family. Buck tells his best friend that he links the incident to Eddie's departure. Even though Eddie is unquestionably a part of Christopher's life, Texas is not the ideal location for their reconciliation. Eddie's flashback episode, Eddie Begins, Season 3, Episode 15, featured one of his earliest near-death encounters in 911. When combined with all Eddie has stated about his life in Texas, the terrifying experience demonstrates that, in 911, Eddie's negative recollections of his birthplace greatly outnumber his positive ones. Eddie Begins not only explains why Eddie's late wife left him, but it also demonstrates the entire scope of Eddie's parents' emotional manipulation, a point that is more pertinent today than ever. The mistakes of Eddie's parents, Helena, Paula Marshall, and Ramon, George Del Hoyo, have affected him well into adulthood, making them perhaps as awful as Buck's. According to 911, Eddie was forced to be the man of the house before he was even a man because Ramon implanted in him a notion of toxic masculinity at an early age. Helena guilt-trips Eddie wherever she can, including in the 911 Season 7 finale when she persuades him to allow them to take Christopher to Texas, whereas Ramon had the grace to own his mistake. Instead of caring about their son, Helena and Ramon take advantage of Eddie when he is weak and don't sympathize with him when he faces difficulties with his son in Texas. Even though Christopher is too young to completely comprehend the situation, Eddie has little hope of repairing his bond with Christopher unless they are distant from interference due to Helena and Ramon's hidden agenda. Eddie eventually facing his parents for failing him could be a positive outcome of his 911 exit. Helena and Ramon are toxic in contrast to Eddie's healthy found family in the 1-8. I'm confident that 911 will quickly make Eddie, and Buck for that matter, realize that he doesn't fit in Texas, as it appears to viewers. California is where Eddie and Christopher belong, aside from more ethereal justifications for going back to Los Angeles, such as the potential romance between Eddie and Buck in 911. Eddie's trip to Texas will bring about a significant change in his life, which should act as a wake-up call to what he truly wants, and, more significantly, what he does not want for himself and his child. Even if 911 Season 8 has an Eddie substitute in place, it's only a short-term fix. The 118 cannot be replaced in Eddie's life, and Eddie is an essential member of the team. Eddie will most likely realize the value of his life in California after spending some time in Texas and return home to Los Angeles with Christopher at his side. Although 911 still needs to come up with a satisfactory solution to their conflict, Eddie, Christopher, and Buck will eventually be reunited as a family. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.